Welcome back, fellow shop rats. It's a Talk About It Tuesday, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges we face driving old cars. It was brought home to me yesterday, which was actually the last episode on the channel, I believe, when I just wanted to have some fun. And it made me think about some stuff that I thought would be good to talk about. I'm your host. I'm Mike, and this is My Car Shop. My wife does give me a hard time sometimes when I'm talking with other car people, especially people who have less experience than me. And one of the things I'm always admonishing them about is when you have an old car, especially if you're hot rodding it and making it have more horsepower and making it faster, etc., you're always chasing the weak link. And that's so true. More than I think sometimes we realize. I think of my 47 Ford as an example. That's a brand new car. I mean, everything in that car is brand new, except for two things. The steering box is the original 47 steering box, and the rear end is a 70s Nova rear end that I didn't go through. So what do I anticipate? What's going to give me problems? Probably nothing on that car except for the steering box and the rear end. No, I'm well aware of that. I could rebuild both of those things. I'm willing to take that risk, but that's kind of the nature of it. But when you build cars for high horsepower, that problem becomes exacerbated or exaggerated or something. You're always chasing the weak link in your car. But let's make it simpler than high horsepower. Let's just bring it down to we'll use Scoops as a prime example of that. Scoops is a low mileage car. It's got 50,000 miles on the body. We don't know the mileage on the motor, but we did have it apart a while ago, and it looks pretty good inside. So motor-wise, I'm not too worried about it. The transmission seems to work good. It's got a good firm shift in it. But it does have a 7 1/4 rear end in it, and that could be a problem because it's a very weak rear end, and that's likely one of the things that will fail on that car. The other thing on that car that's a weak link, besides the wiper linkage, which keeps breaking and I keep fixing ad nauseum, and that's because I'm chasing the old plastic bushings around, and I should have just done it all at once, but, why fix something that's not broken until it breaks? So, que sera on that. But the other thing on that car is the wiring. It's the original wiring. That wiring is 1973 wiring, which is how many years old now? 41 years old. Oh, 51 years old. Oh my goodness, I'm getting old. But anyway, so I know that's a weak link in that car. And so, being prepared for that is important. The Oakland is another prime example. That car is all original wiring, which means that is 98-year-old or maybe older wiring in that car. We know the front wheel bearings aren't great, and we're trying to source those, but it's really hard to find them, so we're not sure what we're going to do with that. The brakes are okay, but they're brakes that were put on it sometime back in the 30s or 40s. The clutch, we don't want to know what kind of shape that's in. And I laugh because I'm not willing to take that car very far without a chase vehicle or a car trailer handy or a tow strap handy. And people think I'm a little crazy, but anything that can go wrong will go wrong on a car that old. Anybody that has one will bear witness to that one. Right, Chris? I think it bears, saying that that's part of the joy and that's part of the adventure of it all is you never know what can go wrong. But if you want something reliable and dependable, it's fine to have a classic car or an antique car or an old car. But you either need to plan ahead for those eventualities or you need to basically make everything brand new from front to back, inside out. And even then, you can still have problems. But fortunately, the technology in the old stuff is a lot simpler than the new stuff. So there is that. But you're going to have lots of money in it, that's for sure. Don't think for one instant that I'm trying to be a Debbie Downer about any of it. I love the classic car hobby, but I am looking forward to having something that is almost brand new that I can jump in and take on a 400-mile trip rather than Scoops, which I could take on a 400-mile trip, but that would be a lot more potential issues than the 47 will be when it's done. You know, we do drive Scoops a lot. We take it around, and we've never really had any major issues with it, but it's always in the back of my mind, and that's a reality. Way back years ago when we bought the Mitsubishi Eclipse for our daughter, which she has since gotten rid of now because it was getting old and giving problems. But when we first bought that car, after I had finished all the paintwork on it before we handed it off to her, Becky and I took it on vacation. Now, it was a fun car. It wasn't a turbo, stupid fast car like my son's Mitsubishi Eclipse, but it was a bright red sunroof, really, fun car to drive. So we took that up to northern Michigan and had a lot of fun with it. And let's face it, when you're driving a fun car, you just see things differently. You view things differently, and the traveling experience, the driving experience definitely becomes part of the fun in the whole thing. And I find that, driving a muscle car like Scoops, which technically isn't a muscle car, but I call it close enough, right? Fast car with a big cam. Oh yeah. It's just fun. It makes heads turn. It gets people's attention and puts a smile on their face, which in turn puts a smile on my face too. I know some people get frustrated with old cars because they aren't as reliable as new cars and they don't want to mess with it, or they don't have the skills or whatever. And of course, when you're traveling, if you don't have skills yourself, sometimes it can be hard to find a reputable mechanic who is willing to or can work on the older stuff. Now, every mechanic thinks they can work on the older stuff, but my experience has been, especially with some of the newer technicians out there, they're technicians. They're not necessarily mechanics, and they tend to overcomplicate things and look for problems in technology, even old technology, rather than the basics and simple stuff. But I think as long as you have realistic expectations of what you can and cannot expect from your classic car, I think you can have a ton of fun. Trade things off, look at the balance. How much new stuff do I want to put in this car? How reliable do I want to make it? All of that stuff comes together to provide you with some kind of a window in what you can and can't do with the car. The 47, God help me, we're going on our 37th anniversary this year. I built that car to take on our 25th anniversary, and we were going to do Route 66 all across the United States, right? Ha ha ha, you silly little delusional man. But Becky's got plans for that car for next year, and all of a sudden I think more is going to be happening on it soon, because she has plans and has something she wants to do with it, which is really cool, and I'm glad for that. So anyway, these are my thoughts today on some of the challenges of owning classic cars. Tell me your thoughts and experiences. Drop it down there in the comments. Tell me what you feel about having a classic car and driving one, and how much do you trust it, and all kind of stuff like that. I'm sure I'll circle back around to this one again, because when you guys make comments, it always inspires me with new Talk About It Tuesday topics. I appreciate you being here as always, and we will catch you on the next one. Well, I'll be here. I'm hoping you will too. Bye.